Hello, everybody. That's a tough act to follow. All right, so I'm gonna give you a brief overview of one of the projects we've been working on at the Alliance. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Julia Simon. As Pablo mentioned, I manage strategic projects for the organization. I'm also a former caregiver for my dad who passed in 2022 of ALS FTD. Oh, the clicker, that would help. So like many great things at the Alliance, this project is the brainchild of Kathy, and I feel very privileged to have been able to work on it for this last year. Before we get started, we do have a few sponsors that we'd like to thank. So Brigus Learning, Amylyx, and Sanofi. Tech team, sorry, quick question. Is it possible to get the slides down here too? Thank you so much. Otherwise, I have to keep doing this. I do have other people to thank. We created a task force, as the Alliance often does, to help with this project. And these experts and volunteers took time out of their lives over multiple months to provide insight and input and feedback to keep the project moving forward as it needed to. So thank you all for your contributions. Okay, here we go. So we're going to start by defining what knowledge management is, because it was a fairly new term to me when I started working on this. So basically it involves capturing, structuring, and sharing knowledge to improve the efficiency and decision-making and innovation across an organization. When it's done effectively, and hopefully we're doing that, it enables the community to access the right information at the right time, increase collaboration and learning, and it helps maintain institutional knowledge. So we also know from our Fundamental Rights Survey in 2023 that over 35% of PALs who responded to the survey do not have adequate information and education to be able to make decisions about their well-being. We'd like to influence that and help change that. So one of the reasons why we're doing this project is because we wanted to identify the many topics that anyone living with ALS-MND and the community of people that surround them would need to know any time during their experience living with the disease. We also wanted it to influence how we operate. So we wanted to identify gaps in the information, resources, and education initiatives that we have at the Alliance. All of this, of course, is in a goal to increase health literacy, which in turn will hopefully also increase everyone's quality of life. So what we were trying to do was to get from sort of an unstructured, messy, even chaotic kind of situation, because there's so much information out there, but it's not necessarily easy to find. And what we were trying to do was structure it and organize it and categorize it into some buckets and kind of make sense of it. So how we did this was we referred to multiple projects of the Alliance that already exist and that were done. We looked at our website, we looked at our member organization websites, we did a fair bit of research. I have a very, very massive Excel spreadsheet to show for it. But we also, as I mentioned earlier, had people providing feedback to us and giving us information about if we were on the right track, if our naming conventions were right, what makes sense, what doesn't. So again, we asked the task force for help, but we also spoke with health professionals and researchers. We spoke to the PCAC. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's the PALS and CALS Advisory Council of the Alliance, so we showed them our project. We also asked the Alliance staff, we're a few talented people, and we did also have somebody who was an expert in knowledge management advise us. So this is what our knowledge map came to look like. And I'm going to explain to you the sections, but also the intentionality behind it. So if we start, we'll look at the center. This is the PALS and CALS, and one of the things that came up in this initiative was the definition for CALS. So we know it as caregivers of people living with ALS MND, but one of the comments that was brought up was maybe we should call it communities of people living with ALS MND to include family members, friends, caregivers, children, etc. So these, as with most Alliance initiatives, all Alliance initiatives, are always at the center of what we do. If we look at the considerations, this is sort of like the lens with which we want to look at the information. So, of course, it's always human-centric, it's global, and there are going to be regional specifications that come up in the information and the languages and all that kind of stuff that come through the map, but essentially where we're looking is at the global level. We also want it to be transparent in line with our open science statement. Making sure we're not duplicating information and using all our efforts in the right direction. And accessibility, we want to make sure that the information is easy to access, but also available in multiple languages as needed. Next, we'll look at the second circle, which are basically the players in our ecosystem. So we work with health professionals, we work with industry, we work, as David mentioned, with other global organizations, and of course, with our members. And then when we look at the outer circle, these are our main buckets or our main categories for all the information. So we have understanding ALS MND, which is the objective information that we know to date about the disease, living with ALS MND, treating it, and getting involved. This design was also done by our very talented coworker, Anjali, and it is intentional. So we wanted to show a way where all the information was sort of intersecting with all the different players and eventually leading back into the PALS and CALS. And the white space that you see there is sort of the room for what is yet to come. So we don't know yet what the map will end up looking or what the iterations will look like in the future, but there's room for growth. Finally, the outcomes that we want to have with this project are really to, as I mentioned, increase health literacy, quality of life, more collaboration, which I think we've all been talking about a lot today, and I will talk about at the end of the presentation as well, in the hopes that we're fostering and building more community. So the map is very large and it doesn't fit onto a slide, but I do want to show you a couple of parts of it. And so this is on a high level, sort of how we broke down the main topics of the knowledge map. So as you can see, we have what we had in that outer circle, the 4 buckets, and then within each of those buckets, what the next layer is. So there are multiple layers, and our goal was really not necessarily to identify every single detail, but really to have broad enough categories that made sense for all the topics within ALS MND. I'm going to show you a little snippet of this section, the Living with ALS MND. So this is a bit of an overwhelming slide, and I apologize for all the text. You don't really have to read all of it, but it's just to show you what the map looks like. So we have the main topic at the top, and then we have the 3 subtopics, so planning, physical health, and mental and emotional health. And then those topics get further broken down. So if we look at planning, for example, we have legal, financial, and life. And those sections, guess what, also get broken down even further into the topics that you see in front of you. So what I was trying to illustrate with the bottom section of this, which is the mental and emotional health, was the different, sort of the level of detail with which we're getting into the map. So in terms of next steps and what we're doing with this, the Alliance is using this map as a way to guide what we do. We are using it for strategic and operational goals. We want to be able to compare ideas or initiatives from what we're doing, how does it map to our framework, and where are the gaps? Where are we missing information? Where could we help create content, collaborate with others to create that? What topics are we not talking about? We will also be sharing a document that does contain the whole map. It's a fairly large document, but you will be able to see it and use it. And we hope that our member organizations and other organizations will use it as a kind of a checklist or to prioritize their activities. We also have hopefully plans to be able to create more collaboration around that. If some organizations are using it for one thing or are experts in one area, then hopefully other organizations can benefit from that. So there's really a goal for using this in a collaborative spirit. And if anyone is interested in learning more, since this was just a little snippet, I'd be happy to provide an information session in January or February early next year to kind of walk through what we did, how we did it, what the map looks like, and how your organization might be able to use it. If you're interested in that, you can email me at this address, and I'd love to chat with you about it. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julia. Okay. Any questions for Julia? Can you raise hands? It was clear enough, so maybe they don't have any questions.
Hopefully, it was clear.
Okay. We have one question.
It was very fast. I felt very fast.
From the chat, from Lynn Brellmeyer, is there a link to the knowledge map? And I know you kind of answered that, but maybe you could more specifically say when someone could see it.
There will be a link available in the early part of 2025, and we're going to be sending it out to all our members, but it will be on our website in the new year. Anyway, back there.
One more question there.
Hello, Kevin Byrne from the Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association. One thing that I think it's great to have all the knowledge categorized and a one place to kind of go and get it. One thing I was thinking is there also a way to kind of make sure that you steer people away from places where there might be uncredited knowledge or false, almost bad places to find things out? I don't know how you do that.
It's kind of hard to hear you. Do you mean like false information?
Yes, exactly that. So, because these days people can go on the internet and they could fall down a rabbit hole and you end up finding information that might not be accurate or might not be credited. How do you steer people away from that?
Yeah. I think this is meant to be a little more proactive. One of the things that we thought about a lot was this is not just about a website and it's not about just web information. It's really about, at least in our case, all the initiatives that we undertake. And so it's really meant to be a guide for that. It's not necessarily getting into the nitty-gritty of what the content is. It's really a broader categorization of the information. Whatever ends up happening to it across the downstream is going to be hard for us to control, I think. So I think it's an interesting point, and maybe that's something we can also consider. But for right now, it's meant to be more of a proactive organizational tool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have time for just one more question. A short one.
Oh.
And okay.
Lauren
If not, please join me to thank Julie again.
Oh,
Sorry. Okay,
Sorry.
there's one more question. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Lauren from the Les Turner ALS Foundation. I think that this tool is very helpful, but I think it's even more helpful at a local organizational level in terms of like training staff. Do you know where to go for X, Y, and Z? And so I think as we think about the alliance and community building and infrastructure of member organizations, I think this can be really a helpful tool. And I just would encourage to also think about that as you're defining and redefining what this project looks like.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. That's one of the reasons why we created it, both for us and for other organizations. And it will need to be defined. There are so many local, cultural, language-specific nuances. But yeah, I agree, and thank you for that comment. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Julia.